Most language learners spend hundreds of hours memorizing grammar rules, and still cannot hold a basic conversation. Studies from the University of Maryland show that traditional rule-based grammar instruction improves test scores by about 12%, but has almost zero measurable effect on actual speaking ability. You could know every rule in the book and still freeze the moment a native speaker opens their mouth. That number, 12%, should stop you cold. Because it means the way most of us were taught language in school is fundamentally broken. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover why grammar rules actively work against you when it comes to real fluency, what researchers have found actually rewires your brain for accurate language use, and the method that polyglots and linguists quietly use themselves, one that contradicts almost everything your high school teacher ever told you. There is one idea coming up in this video that will completely change how you think about language learning. Most people find it uncomfortable at first. By the end, you will wonder why nobody told you sooner. To understand why memorizing rules fails, we need to go back to the 1970s. A linguist named Stephen Krashen was studying how people actually acquire language, and he noticed something striking. Children never sit down and memorize grammar charts. They are not handed a list of verb conjugations. They simply hear language, interact with it, respond to it, and somehow, over time, they produce grammatically correct sentences. Krashen formalized this into what he called the input hypothesis. The core idea is that we acquire language not by studying its rules, but by understanding messages. He drew a sharp line between learning, which is conscious rule study, and acquisition, which is the unconscious process that happens when meaning is communicated. His research suggested that only acquired language becomes automatic. Learned rules stay locked in the analytical brain, slow, clunky, and completely unavailable when you are mid-conversation and need to think fast. Krashen was controversial. Many academics pushed back. But decades of follow-up research have largely supported his central claim. A 2014 meta-analysis published in the journal Language Teaching reviewed over 200 studies and found that meaning-focused instruction consistently outperformed form-focused instruction for real communicative ability. The rules you consciously memorize almost never become the grammar you automatically use. Your brain simply does not work that way. So what does work? The answer comes from cognitive science, and it centers on a concept called implicit learning. Your brain is constantly scanning for patterns. It does not need you to consciously identify a rule in order to internalize it. When you are exposed to enough examples of the same grammatical structure in meaningful context, your brain builds an unconscious model of how that structure works. Researchers at MIT call this statistical learning. Your brain is essentially running probability calculations on every sentence you encounter, slowly building a sense of what sounds right and what does not. Native speakers are not consciously applying rules when they speak. They are drawing on thousands of hours of pattern exposure stored in implicit memory. That is exactly the type of memory you need to target. But here is what nobody talks about. This implicit learning system can be trained in a second language. It is not reserved for children. Adults can access it too, but only if they stop trying to consciously control the process and start flooding their system with comprehensible input. The keyword is comprehensible. Language that is slightly above your current level, where you understand most of it through context, is the sweet spot. Too easy and your brain coasts. Too hard and it shuts down. Get it right and you are essentially programming your internal grammar engine without writing a single rule. Now let us talk about specific techniques that activate implicit learning, because theory without method is useless. The first technique is called sentence mining. Instead of studying grammar tables, you collect real sentences from books, podcasts, films, or conversations, sentences that you find interesting or meaningful. You store them in a spaced repetition system like Anki, and you review them regularly. You are not analyzing the grammar. You are simply letting your brain absorb the patterns. Over time, those patterns become your intuition. Linguist Alexander Argels has used this technique across 16 languages. He reports that his grammatical accuracy improved dramatically without ever consciously drilling rules. The second technique is called shadowing. You listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say as closely as possible, matching rhythm, stress, and intonation in real time. Shadowing forces your brain to process grammar at native speed, which bypasses your slow analytical system entirely. You physically cannot stop to think about whether you need subjunctive or indicative. You just follow the sound. Over hundreds of repetitions, correct patterns lock into muscle memory. Polyglot Luca Lampariello credits shadowing as the single most powerful grammar technique he has ever used across 12 languages. The third technique is story-based immersion. Research from the University of Oregon found that learners who consumed grammar through graded stories retained accurate structures at twice the rate of those who studied grammar charts. When grammar is embedded in narrative, your brain encodes it alongside emotion, context, and meaning, which makes it vastly stickier than an abstract rule sitting in isolation on a textbook page. Rhetorical question: if implicit learning is so effective, why is it not how schools teach language? Because it is slow at first. You do not see dramatic results in a semester. Rule memorization produces fast, measurable test scores. It looks like progress. It feels productive. But it is a trap. It builds a brittle, fragile kind of knowledge that collapses under the pressure of real communication. The education system optimized for grades, not fluency. You need to optimize for something different. Here is the deeper insight that changes everything. Grammar is not a set of rules. It is a set of habits. And habits are not formed by memorization. They are formed by repetition and context. When a Spanish learner keeps stumbling over ser versus estar, the solution is not to reread the rule for the 100th time. The solution is to encounter hundreds of real examples where those verbs appear in emotionally engaging contexts: films, songs, stories, conversations. The brain tracks the patterns. The habit forms. The mistake stops happening. Not because you learned the rule better, but because your implicit memory replaced the bad habit with a good one. This has real consequences for how you should spend your study time. A learner investing 2 hours a day who spends 90 minutes on comprehensible input and 30 minutes on output practice will dramatically outperform a learner spending those same 2 hours on grammar drills and translation exercises. The research from linguist Bill Van Patten consistently shows that learners who focus on input first develop more accurate intuition faster than those who focus on rule instruction. Accurate intuition, that is the goal. Not correct answers on a worksheet, but a feeling in your gut that tells you a sentence is right or wrong before your analytical brain even has time to check. Output matters too, but in a specific way. Speaking and writing are not where you learn grammar, they are where you test it. When you attempt to produce language and it feels wrong, that discomfort is a signal to your brain to pay attention. Researchers call this noticing. You are creating a gap in your implicit knowledge, and your brain becomes primed to fill it the next time you encounter the correct form and input. Output and input work together in a cycle. But the input always comes first. The practical takeaway from everything you have just heard is this: stop buying grammar textbooks. Stop making flashcards of rules. Instead, find content in your target language that genuinely interests you. Read it. Listen to it. Watch it. Collect the sentences that stick with you. Repeat them. Imitate native speakers. Write freely without stopping to check rules. Read what you wrote aloud. Let your brain do what it was designed to do: find patterns, build models, and generate language automatically. That is not a shortcut. That is how language actually works. Grammar is not a wall you climb before you get to real language. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Lang Bridge for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.